When it comes to modern horror icons, two killers stand out in very different ways. One hides behind a mask and manipulates his victims with psychological mind games, while the other is a silent, unpredictable monster who enjoys chaos and destruction. On one side, we have the mysterious Ghostface from the legendary Scream franchise, and on the other side stands the terrifying Art the Clown from the brutal Terrifier series. Both killers have shocked audiences around the world, but the real question horror fans continue to debate is simple: which one of them is truly the scariest horror villain? To understand this comparison, we first need to look at what makes each of these characters so unique. Ghostface first appeared in the original Scream film in 1996, directed by legendary horror filmmaker Wes Craven. At first glance, Ghostface looks like a typical slasher villain, a masked figure stalking victims with a knife. But the Scream franchise introduced a clever twist that completely changed the formula. Unlike many horror killers who remain the same person in every movie, Ghostface is never just one individual. The mask can be worn by anyone, which means the real killer could be a friend, a classmate, or even someone the audience trusts. This concept turned every Scream movie into both a horror story and a mystery. Viewers are constantly searching for clues, trying to figure out which character might secretly be the killer. The psychological tension created by this idea makes Ghostface extremely unsettling. You never know who is behind the mask until the final reveal, and that uncertainty adds an extra layer of fear to the entire story. Now compare that to Art the Clown. Unlike Ghostface, Art does not hide behind a complicated mystery or secret identity. From the moment he appears on screen, the audience immediately understands that something is very wrong. Art does not speak, he does not explain his motives, and he rarely shows any emotion other than a disturbing grin. Yet his silence is exactly what makes him so terrifying. Created by filmmaker Damien Leone, Art the Clown quickly became one of the most disturbing villains in modern horror. His exaggerated expressions and twisted sense of humor give him a strange, theatrical personality. Instead of simply attacking his victims and moving on, Art often treats his crimes like a performance. He reacts to situations with exaggerated gestures, silent laughter, and unsettling eye contact that makes the audience deeply uncomfortable. Another major difference between these two villains is the way they approach fear. Ghostface relies heavily on psychological manipulation. Before attacking, the killer often calls victims on the phone, asking horror trivia questions or playing mind games that slowly build tension. These conversations create a sense of dread because the victims realize someone is watching them long before the attack actually begins. Art the Clown, however, operates very differently. He does not warn his victims or play elaborate games. Instead, he appears suddenly and unpredictably, often turning everyday situations into moments of chaos. His lack of communication makes his behavior impossible to predict. While Ghostface creates suspense through conversation and mystery, Art creates fear through unpredictability and brutal intensity. The environments in which these characters operate also play a role in how frightening they feel. The Scream films often take place in familiar settings like small towns, schools, or college campuses. These locations make the story feel realistic, as if the events could happen in a normal, everyday environment. The idea that a friend or neighbor might secretly be the killer adds to the psychological horror. In contrast, the world of the Terrifier franchise feels darker and more surreal. Art the Clown often appears in isolated locations where help feels far away. The atmosphere is bleak and unsettling, creating a sense that the characters are trapped in a nightmare they cannot escape. This darker tone makes Art's presence feel almost supernatural, even when the story does not fully explain his origins. Another reason fans compare these two villains is their impact on the horror genre itself. Ghostface revolutionized the slasher formula by introducing self-awareness and mystery into the story. Characters in Scream often discuss horror movie rules, making the audience feel like they are part of the game. This clever storytelling approach helped the franchise remain relevant for decades. Art the Clown, on the other hand, represents a different kind of evolution in horror. His films focus heavily on practical effects and shocking imagery, bringing back the raw intensity of classic exploitation horror movies. Instead of playing with genre rules, The Terrifier series pushes boundaries with disturbing visuals and relentless tension. So, which of these killers is truly more terrifying? The answer may depend on what type of fear affects you the most. If psychological tension and mystery are what make horror effective, then Ghostface might be the scarier villain. The idea that anyone around you could secretly be the killer creates a level of paranoia that stays with viewers long after the movie ends. But if pure unpredictability and disturbing behavior create a stronger sense of fear, then Art the Clown may be the more terrifying character. His silent personality, twisted humor, and brutal methods make him feel less like a human killer and more like a chaotic force of horror. Ultimately, both characters represent different sides of the horror genre. Ghostface embodies the suspenseful mystery of classic slasher storytelling, while Art the Clown represents the darker, more extreme side of modern horror cinema. Each villain creates fear in their own unique way, and that is exactly why fans continue to debate which one truly deserves the title of the scariest horror killer. In the end, the real winner of this comparison might actually be the horror genre itself. Because as long as characters like Ghostface and Art the Clown continue to terrify audiences, horror fans will always have something new to fear when the lights go out and the movie begins.